Welcome back, Hawks fans, to your Atlanta Hawks fan show. It's your boy Bryce Lewis back again, and we have a very special guest back on the show for a second time, Bob Rathbun of the Atlanta Hawks, a play-by-play, TV play-by-play announcer. Welcome back, Bob. How are you today?
Bryce, I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm feeling really good, man. And, obviously the Hawks season ended last week, I believe. And, you could say it was disappointing into the season. But overall, I think this season was a magical season. I think a lot of Hawks fans would agree with that. And I just wanted to bring you onto this show for this episode because I wanted to get your thoughts. Obviously, being the guy who's called this team's every regular season game, and you called the first round, and you've watched this team through the playoffs. How would you assess this season? How would you view this season in your eyes? What have you, is this one of the greatest seasons you've ever covered? How would you describe the season as a whole from your lens?
I would put this as one of the greatest seasons in Atlanta Hawks history. Going back to 1968, this is remarkable what this team did, And I think the reason is because there were no expectations. Where we were when we made the coaching change on March the 1st, it looked like we wasn't even going to make the play-in tournament. And to change coaches and have everything come together like it did, win 8 straight when Nate took over, and get better week by week, despite all the injuries, never having your entire team together for one day since the team came together, pretty remarkable. And then when they did what they did in the playoffs, to take care of the Knicks like they did, no one felt they were going to beat New York. We kind of felt pretty good about it, but the national media, sound asleep. To win 3 times in Philadelphia was tremendous. Game 7 on the road, fantastic. And, I felt like if Trey doesn't get hurt, we're probably in the NBA Finals right now. So I would say this is as great a season as we've ever had.
Yes, I definitely would agree with that, man. It was like I said, it was a great season. Just seeing the change of the team, like you said, it was just it was honestly beautiful to watch. And it just makes you very, excited for the future. And so I guess my next question would be, so is it fair next year? Obviously, we don't have to see how the offseason unfolds when we get there. But is it fair next year to now look at this and say, okay, if health is better and your health is and everybody improves, we're expecting, obviously, a lot of these guys had their first run of the playoffs, so that experience is going to be there. Is it fair to say, hey, we should maybe start thinking, okay, championship next year? Or do we still have to take into account, okay, 76ers is going to be back. Brooklyn, we might see, is going to be healthy potentially next year. Bucks are still basically the team to beat since they're in the NBA Finals. How would you view that next year for the Hawks team in the assessment next year?
I think the expectation level is going to be elevated. That's only natural. But you can't listen to that noise just like you couldn't listen to last year's noise that we were not going to be very good. Because obviously nobody knew what they were talking about then. So here's where we are. We are a contender, for the top. I think the goals for next year, and I think Trey alluded to this at his exit interview, the goals for next year are to get home court advantage. You win 50 games and you finish in the top 4, you're an elite team in the NBA. Okay. And you mentioned so accurately that the competition is not going away. Philly, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, you name it, the Knicks, Miami, they're all going to be there. We're all in the mix. And the Hawks now are in that mix. So I think the next goal for us is to win 50 plus, get into a top 4 situation, high as you can possibly get, of course, but win 50, get home court, and you're going to set yourself up for success. There's no doubt. And you've got to get lucky. And luck is injuries and lack thereof. It's not so much the ball bouncing in and bouncing out luck. It's more of, can you be healthy? Can you imagine if we'd have had DeAndre Hunter for Philly and Milwaukee? He played so great and affected that New York series in such a positive way. I mean, Julius Randle hadn't been heard from since once DeAndre got done with him. So, we've got a lot to look forward to. And I think it's the best possible position for a pro team to be in. And that is, you're stoked about what you did and what you accomplished. Fans are all turned on, place is packed, excitement. You hate that you're not playing, but you're hungry for more. And that's what's going to drive you through the offseason. That's going to drive your weightlifting. That's going to drive the workouts. Getting ready for Labor Day when everybody comes back. And then we get into the gym. And 4 weeks later, we start formal training camp. Those are the things that drive you, okay, through an off season. So it's really the best of both worlds right now for the Hawks. And we're going to be in the mix, and every game's going to be crucial. And that's just the way you want it.
Yeah, definitely. Taking that next step, elevating is definitely what, this franchise, I guess you can say, maybe ever since the 90s hasn't really felt like, oh, we're competitive. We have a team that can, compete with the top guys in the conference and give you that excitement as a fan moving forward. And, I guess so I'm going to go into this. So obviously, for the most part, everybody on the roster, unless they make a couple of twinks here, that's going to probably happen, you think is going to be back the main guys. The only person right now who is in limbo right now is John Collins, as he's hitting his restricted free agency this offseason. And I'm not going to necessarily ask you if you think he's going to come back or not, but I just want you to maybe tell the fans how John's role changed, because his role changed. He was literally, you could say for the most part, he was the second option the last 2 years behind Trey. And now this year, you got a new bunch of players, new system, you had a coaching change, a lot of things happened, and John had to learn how to affect the game in different ways. And sometimes that meant his stat line wasn't going to look great. And then everybody's been looking at the fact that he made the comment about the max contract before the year, and they think, well, the numbers aren't matching the number he wants. But I feel like his importance and his impact on the team may have been even greater than the last 2 years in other aspects. How do you feel about that?
Stats can't be your driver. And this is something that young players have a very difficult time with, because the only way they're going to get paid is to come up with stats. Mm-hmm. But John's a little different in that regard, that he is not driven by statistics. He wants to win. And that's why I do think he'll be back with us. I think he wants to be here. He's made that fact known. He's willing to sacrifice to help the team. And you don't find many young players that are willingly and gleefully at that position in their lives. Mm-hmm. And there's the one thing, if I could get my hands on John, because, we weren't allowed in to practice or to travel, I would say, buddy, you're going to get another contract. Take the $90 million, take the $100 million or whatever they offer you, you're going to get paid again in 4 years. So think long term. Got to tell players, not the stars, because they're going to get theirs, but like everybody else, your goal in this league obviously is to win, but your secondary goal is to average the mid-level exception for 10 years. If you do that, you're going to walk away with $100 million. You probably will be in pretty good shape financially if you have $100 million in the bank after 10 years of playing pro basketball. Now, we know the careers are not that long on average, and we know that nobody makes that money, but that ought to be your goal. So if you're making $10 million a year, you're in pretty good shape, okay, financially. And everybody, the media drives this too, wrongfully, but they just drive, super max, bonuses for being all NBA and all that stuff. Nonsense. That applies to maybe 5% of the guys in the league. For everybody else, it's hitting that baseline. Are you in a good town? Are you in a good situation? Do you love the organization? Do you love your teammates? Do you love your coaches? Is this where I want to be? Don't ever underestimate happiness. And John Collins has figured that out. Now, what's going to happen? I don't know. Somebody may come along and offer him a front-loaded max deal, right? Might happen. And then you got to sit back and be a businessman and say, am I better off making $120 million over 4 at Dallas and I'm just throwing these names out there just for conversation's sake, but am I better there in Dallas with a new coach and a whole new staff and new system and new players and playing out west? Or am I better off taking max money at Oklahoma City, which is in the middle of a rebuild? Or would I rather take a little less and stay here with a team that is on the rise? I mean, we're knocking on the door to go to the NBA Finals. So those are the things I think that are going on for John. But he's willing to sacrifice. He proved that. He's all about winning. And you love to have those guys on your team. There's no doubt about that. But for us to be good, Bryce, everybody's got to sacrifice. Trey's got to sacrifice. Hunter's got to sacrifice. Cam's got to sacrifice. And it's hard for young players because they're looking at getting out of that rookie contract and cashing in. And the best way to do that is having good, big stats. But you're not going to have big stats when you got a team like we have.
I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, it's good.
It's hard to do that when you got so many good players that are young. I mean, look at Kevin, John. Capella's only 27, and he's got, I think, 2 years left on his deal. Bogey's locked. Trey's eligible for an extension. Hunter, Reddish. I mean, this is what Tony was saying at his media time earlier last week. We can't keep everybody. We'd love to, but it's almost not going to happen. So John's the first domino, I think, to fall in that regard. Okay. Trey's eligible. That will probably happen this summer. So that's the second domino to fall. And how do you keep all these key pieces together? That's the challenge for Travis and Tony going forward. And John's just the first guy, I think. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that, obviously they're going to evaluate everything that happens during the season, off season. And I think they're going to have a plan, regardless of whatever decisions they're going to make. And, as long as, like they say, if they're able to get a competitive product out there and we're competing potentially for a championship. I saw a quote saying that Tony Ressler said he wouldn't mind paying the tax as long as it's a good team. So maybe that could be a good sign for us keeping the majority of these guys moving forward as well. So hopefully everything works out. But I appreciate you coming on to the show, Bob. Appreciate you taking another time, man. Definitely enjoy you. You were definitely coming.
What was your favorite play of last playoffs?
Favorite play?
Moment?
The John Collins dunk on Embiid.
Okay. What about Troy taking a bow in New York?
That was probably second. And it was funny. One of the plays that was underrated to me, that it's not like anything actually happened, like scoring wise, but I don't know. You remember that play when Trey brought it up the floor and he was just dribbling between his legs? I think Reggie Bullock was on him. I don't know. For some reason, that play got me hyped because it kind of made me feel like it's like Trey knows. It's like, yeah, we got this. Like I feel like I could do anything against these guys. And hey, that's the type of stuff in Atlanta we love to see. So it definitely got us hyped for the team, man. So
hitting the floater to win game one in New York was great. Taking a bow, I loved it because, I mean, your first playoff, right, in New York, he's the first player ever to string 30-point games in the Garden in the playoffs 3 times in one series. First guy to do that. And then to cap it off, you hit a 30-foot three-pointer to wrap it up. That was one of the best Atlanta sports moments. That's like Justice hitting a home run. I mean, it was great. I loved it.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was amazing. It was amazing. Like I said, Bob, appreciate you coming on, man.
You got it, Bryce.
Definitely
great to be with you, pal.
Hope to come back on in the future, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, sir.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Appreciate you.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, create a profile in Fan Media Network. Then look for the news page in our website and fan show resources page. Help yourself. We give show hosts a show graphic and team colors, a simple short show format, tips on pre- and post-production, ideas to get fans and guests on your show, Apple News distribution and show sponsorship sales and services to help featured show hosts earn money. Show hosts use our iPhone app to publish their shows. Our website supports Android users.